state where you're more rest digest. And some things may put you into more of that sympathetic state, or fight or flight, or freeze is actually the other branch of that. So the issue is the fight or flight nervous system is supposed to get you out of danger. Like, that is what it is intended to do. So our ancestors back in the day, when we were running away from a saber-toothed tiger, would have their sympathetic nervous system ramp up. All of the blood shunts away from the internal organs, goes to the muscles, so you can run away from the tiger. Your heart rate increases, you feel sweaty, you usually feel nauseous. All of your internal processes, like going to the bathroom, kind of get shut down. And sex is completely off the table, right? Like, running away from the saber-toothed tiger. Nobody cares. The issue, though, that we run into today is we don't really run into a lot of saber-toothed tigers anymore. We tend to get our sympathetic nervous system activated by more everyday stressors, like a unkind boss, or a crying child, or just chores. All of these things can kind of ramp up that sympathetic nervous system. And if you're in that constant fight state, that throws your body out of its normal balance and throws you out of homeostasis. Which, I mean, I can say for certain that I am not a victim, but I've experienced that. I'm sure everyone in the room could probably say the same thing. You feel like there's too much time, or not too much time, too much to do and never enough time to get it done. So we're just in that constant fight or flight state, and end up in this state of autonomic dysregulation is what they call it. So we're going to be doing some yoga to kind of calm us down, bring us back into that parasympathetic nervous system, bring us into that rest and digest, get us feeling nice and good, before we get into our topic, Casey, about emotions and how they affect the internal organs, and then before we get into our boundary setting workshop. So if you guys are ready, we're actually going to start yoga today in Shavasana, which, if you guys are yogis are familiar, it's corpse pose, so you're going to be laying flat on your back. It's usually how we end class. Shaking it up a little bit here. So you guys are going to lay down on your backs. If you feel comfortable, you can let your arms fall out beside you. Let your legs fall out to the sides. And the number one most important thing with our class tonight is I want you to listen to your body. Whatever it is telling you, let it be the guide. If a part of your body is speaking to you through discomfort, awareness, any other sensation, ask it what it is and do whatever that thing is. And if you need suggestions, just raise your hand. One of us will come around. We're going to start. Close your eyes if that feels safe to you, or lower your gaze. If you feel discomfort in this position, raise your hand, or in any of the positions, raise your hand, and one of us again will come around and help you feel supported. I want you to first bring your attention to your breath without trying to change it. Feel the temperature of the air as it enters. Does it feel cool? Feel the temperature of the air as it exits. Does it feel warm? Feel your chest and your belly move. Now I want you to all try breathing together. I want us to all try breathing together if that feels okay. So first thing I want you to do is take a deep 4-second inhale and hold at the top. So we're going to go on in just a second. So go ahead and inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. Again, inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold at the bottom. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want you to continue to exhale for twice as long as you inhale, or to the best of your ability, as this is going to help stimulate and activate that parasympathetic nervous system. I want you to now bring your attention to your feet. Notice any sensation in your feet, in your toes, in the arches. Now bring your attention to your calves and your knees. Notice any and all sensations here. Or if there are no sensations, you can just register as a blank. You don't have to make sensations happen. Now bring your attention to your thighs, the fronts of the thighs, the backs of the thighs. You can imagine them getting heavier, sinking into the mat. Bring your attention to your glutes and the pelvis, the lower abdomen and the back. You can bring attention to your chest, your upper back, your shoulders. Breathing anywhere that feels tight. Sink into the mat. Bring attention to your right arm, your right wrist, and each of your fingers, your thumb, your pointer finger, middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger. Each finger with its own unique sensations. Now bring attention to your left arm, to your left elbow, your left wrist, and each of your fingers, thumb, pointer, middle, ring, pinky. Bring attention to the base of your neck, wrapping around to the top of your head. Bring attention to your forehead. Try to relax the wrinkles in your forehead. Right eyebrow, left eyebrow. Relax the eyebrows. Right eye, left eye. Right cheek, left cheek. Relax your tongue and your jaw. Now I want you to breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. And breathe out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you're ready, I want you to roll to your right side. And then we're going to come up onto all fours, and we're going to move through a couple of cat-cows. All right. So you're going to take a deep inhale. You're going to drop your belly towards the ground, look up towards the sky, tailbone goes up towards the sky. And then as you exhale, you're going to curl under, rounding out through the back, tucking through the tail. Inhale, drop the belly, let the tailbone come up towards the sky. Lift the head towards the sky. And exhale, round out. I want you to move slowly here. Imagine you are moving one vertebra at a time. Inhale, look up towards the ceiling. Dropping the belly, dropping the chest. Exhale, rounding out through the spine. Inhale, dropping the belly. Exhale, tucking it under. Good. Now we're going to press through our fingertips. We're going to shift our weight back. You can bring your knees wide here if you like. We're going into a child's pose. Once you're here, you can rest your forehead on the mat. And try to breathe deeply into your low back and pelvis. And exhale slowly. We're still doing that. Exhale twice as long as the inhale. As you're breathing here, I want you to imagine sending the air towards your sit bones. So the sit bones are the bones in the center of your bottom. As you're inhaling, imagine those sit bones moving further apart. You can imagine that your tailbone is extending or that your pelvic floor is sagging like a hammock. You can also imagine that the vagina is opening. If we've ever worked together, you may know this as the reverse Kegel. The goal of this exercise is to let your pelvic floor relax after a long day of working hard, holding you up, supporting your pelvis and abdominal organs. If it feels good to you, walk your hands over to the right side of the mat. You're going to shift your hips towards the left side of the mat. And I want you to try breathing into the left side of the body. So where the left rib cage is, take a deep inhale there. Imagine expanding through that left rib. And then exhale slowly. Deep inhale into that left rib. And then exhale slowly. And then you can walk your hands over to the left side of your mat. You're going to breathe into the right side of your rib cage, expanding through the ribs, and exhale slowly. Inhale through the ribs, the left side of the ribs, and exhale slowly. Good. You can go ahead and walk back to center. All right, we're going to go ahead and sit up. So come on back. We're going to sit up on our sit bones, sitting tall. You can imagine that a string is pulling you tall from the top of your head. Try to stack your ribs over your pelvis. Let your knees fall out towards the ground. We're going to move through another couple of cat-cows just in sitting this time. So you're going to exhale, round out through your back, tucking your chin. Inhale, lengthening through your spine, looking up at the ceiling. Exhale, rounding out through the back. We can do as many as feels good here. If you want, you can add a little bit of rotation. So round out to the left, come up to the right. Or you can move back and forth, whatever feels good in your body. Just moving slow and controlled, really listening to whatever your body has to say. If you're doing some circles, you can go ahead and circle back around the other way, going back to the right, up to the left. And do whatever feels good here. All right, we're going to do a little bit of a hip opener. So you can take your left knee, drop it down towards the mat, take your right ankle, cross it over your left knee. You may want to walk that left shin out a little bit, so it's almost perpendicular to the top of the mat. And you should feel a nice stretch in the right hip here, if this is comfortable for you. We're just going to hold and try to breathe into that right hip. So nice deep inhale into the hip. You can even imagine sending the air down into the sit bone on that side. And then exhale. Slowly let it go. Another deep inhale here. And exhale. Let it go. And we can go ahead and switch sides. So right knee is going to be on the mat. Left ankle is going to cross over. If this feels uncomfortable in your knee at all, you can try flexing the foot and see if that helps, or you can just walk your legs out a little further. So go ahead and deep inhale into that hip. And exhale. Let it go. Deep inhale into the hip. And then exhale. Let it go. All right, we're going to move into a little spinal twist. So you can take that left foot, place it on the right side of your left knee, and then try to sit up tall here. If this is good for you, you can stay right here. Or if you want to go a little deeper, you can wrap your right arm around your left knee And twist to the side of the room, looking over your left shoulder. And then same thing here. You can breathe into your side body, whatever feels tight. Nice deep inhale. And then exhale, let it go. Nice deep inhale. And exhale, let it go. And then we'll switch to the other side. So right ankle over left knee. We wrap the left arm around the right knee. Deep inhale, wherever feels tight. Don't try to crank through this, just go where it feels good. Go where it feels good. Deep inhale, and exhale slowly. All right. I don't have a yoga block, but you guys do. So I'm going to have you take your yoga block. We're going to perfect. So we're going to take the yoga block. We're going to come down on our backs. If it feels comfortable, you can place the yoga block under your bottom, like under your sacrum. This can feel a little intense on the low back, so to counter that, try to tuck your pelvis under. You can pull both knees in towards your chest. Round out through the low back with your bottom resting on the yoga block. And we can stay here for a little bit and just breathe into the low back. And once you feel comfortable here, go ahead and hug your left knee in towards your chest as you send your right leg out straight. And then just let it rest on the ground. If your heel can touch the ground, try to keep your back rounded or flat against the yoga block. Don't let it arch. You shouldn't feel this in your back. All you should feel is maybe like a little bit of a stretch through the front of the hip. I want you to breathe into the tight areas. Nice deep inhale to the pelvis, into the hip. And then exhale slowly. Inhale into the front of the hip. And then exhale slowly. One more time, deep inhale. And then exhale slowly. And then go ahead and bring both knees in towards your chest, round out your back again. And then switch so that left leg is straight. Focus when you pop in. Deep inhale into the front of the hip. And exhale slowly. Deep inhale into the front of the hip. And exhale slowly. Deep inhale. Exhale. We'll do one more time. Go ahead and bring both knees in towards your chest. And then you can place your feet flat on the ground in kind of a supported bridge. Lift up your hips and then we'll take out the yoga mat, yoga block. And then go ahead and sit up. How's everyone feeling? Good. Good. A little relaxed. Yeah. A little calmed down after a long, busy day. All right. I will go ahead and share the stage with Casey. Yay, thank you, Emily. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. So I also wanted to, I'm Dr. Casey Smith. I'm Emily's partner and colleague, also a pelvic floor physical therapist. And I wanted to thank you all for being here because as the topic is related to pelvic trauma, that looks like a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And for some people, that is a specific emotion or a thought or storage of something that's happening in their pelvis. And for other people, that is a disease process or a surgery or something else that's physically happened to them that's out of their control. And for other people, it may be an event or something that you were subjected to
or, whatever it is. And you can have a lot of physical manifestations of that. So that can be pain, that can be, like Emily was saying, constipation, or not being able to urinate properly. It can be a recurring thought and a physical sensation that goes with that thought. So all of those things, our body is really smart, and it stores those things and it remembers those things. And part of what happens is every event in your life, your brain knows, it remembers. Whether you are conscious of it or not, your brain knows, and it puts a little tag on it and stores it somewhere in here. And some events that happen just kind of pass right on through, and you never think about them again, and you don't really have anything attached to it. And other ones, your brain stores, and it keeps telling you about over and over and over again. And those types of storage things manifest in your organs. And it can be any organ in your body, your brain, your thyroid, your liver, your heart, your uterus, whatever it is. It could be in vessels that connect your organs or soft tissues. And because we have this flow in and out, we're also moving energy through our bodies. And because essentially all of our cells use energy and they communicate with each other, that makes us who we are. That's how we function. But these emotions get stored in both your brain and an organ. And just for an example, some of your actual, like in your genital system, some of the emotions that are stored there are family attachments, family intensity, a need for shelter, a need for security, some kind of protection or territorial assessment. In your heart, for instance, you get affection, attachment, deception, jealousy, joy, love, narcissism, seduction, sentimentalism, sorry, I can't say that word, and shame. But anyway, there has been actual mapping to every organ in your body at very specific emotions. So what happens is, say something happens to you, whatever it is, maybe you fall. You have your nervous system that Emily's talking about. You have these plexus of nerves, plexi, that are all over your body. And your hypogastric plexus is one that controls your digestive center. And your solar plexus, those react immediately. And like you probably felt something happen and you just feel like your stomach tighten up, right? That's your hypogastric plexus responding to that event, whether it's scary or whether you have to act fast or it produces anxiety, whatever it is. Well, when that happens, that sometimes reverberates out to an organ, and you don't really have conscious control of where in your body that thing is being stored. Yes, there are specific emotions that are being attached to organs, but that particular event for you might feel like 5 emotions, right? So you're not really in control. So your nervous system sends these messages to your organ, and it kind of lives there. Well, what happens when something is really stored there is that organ stops moving. So all of your organs move in and out of your midline. They all have a natural movement and a natural rhythm. They move in 3 planes of motion every 4 seconds, in and out of your body. So they're rolling constantly. And our body relies on movement to function. So everything in us is moving all the time. And when you were getting too much storage from some event, sometimes that organ just stops moving. Like maybe instead of moving out and down and turning clockwise, it just moves out and down and it doesn't turn. So it's not really a dysfunction. Like you're not gonna, test positive on a liver enzyme test, but your liver, that is this giant organ with 500 functions, gets stuck. And it starts because it's attached to your rib cage, it's attached to your thoracic spine, it's attached to your cervical spine, it's attached to your diaphragm, it's attached to like half your digestive organs. it just kind of stops moving. And so then you start getting tension. And when you start getting tension, you have this physical tension that manifests because everything the liver is attached to, if it stops moving a little bit, then maybe these other pieces kind of stop moving a little bit, and everything they're attached to stops moving a little bit. And pretty soon that just kind of spreads into your muscles, your ligaments, your fascial system, whatever it is. And you may feel tension literally all the way up and down your body and can't get rid of it with stretching or massage or whatever, or maybe it goes away for a little bit. But fundamentally, you haven't fixed the problem because it's emotional storage and it is in your deep organs. Like, I'm sure, people have had the feeling of getting a massage and it's like, oh, I just needed to go a little bit deeper. Well, those are the things that are probably some type of organ storage or like this emotional storage in the organs, and the organs aren't moving properly. And so there is an osteopathic approach that we do where you're basically creating some mobility in this organ, right, to restore the motion, whether it's your uterus, your ovaries, your liver, whatever it is. You're restoring motion to that organ at a local level, but then we're also trying to connect the brain to it so that we tell the brain, okay, this connection you've made because this event happened, like maybe one day you had a stomach inflammation, you had gastritis, right? And your stomach got super inflamed. And then 2 years later, you had a baby and you remember being in a hospital and the baby's vitals were dropping and you had this thought of, oh my goodness, my baby's gonna die. And maybe the baby is fine, but you had this thought, oh my God, my baby's gonna die, whatever it is. And there were 10,000 emotions associated with that. Well, maybe the brain puts the gastritis right next to this childbirth experience. And so every time you eat a big cheeseburger and French fries and you inflame your stomach, you're having these sensations in your pelvis.
Wow.
Or
that's crazy.
Yeah, right. Or you feel tension somewhere. Or the brain is mapping this connection between the stomach and the uterus, and you just feel like tense through here and you have no idea why. And it's partly the food just set off this inflammatory response that sent messages back to your brain to that specific area, but because those things are neighbors, you're getting sensations from all these things. And so that's why in some ways we kind of feel this trauma response over and over again, but we're not actually living the trauma. We're just having this manifest in our body, even though maybe we've gone to therapy, maybe we've worked through some stuff, you journal, maybe do all these things, but your body still knows it's there because they're mapped in your brain in some places, and anything that comes along can trigger it, especially if your nervous system is a little bit elevated. So part of this mapping is reconnecting the brain to the stomach and saying, hey, it's okay. You can let go of whatever happened in this gastritis episode. Maybe you hated being in the hospital. Maybe you felt like you were missing out on life and doing something your family wanted to do, and you were lonely and abandoned, and you can get rid of that. But then this childbirth experience, maybe it says, okay, we can limit that. You came out fine. You're a good mom. Your baby came out fine. Everybody did what they're supposed to, and we're all good now. And so when you remap the brain to these organs and you restore the motion of the motion of the organs themselves, your brain works itself out. So I don't even know how to explain how it does it, but your brain is a super smart machine, and it figures out that experience is always there, but the emotional storage with it that is triggering over and over goes away because the brain processes it. And once your brain processes it, you don't have that same attachment to it, and it isn't stored with that tension in your body. And so then it feels like you can move freer, you can process things better, you have more mental space for things because all of a sudden there's this lightness or this movement that happens, and your body has kind of worked through it. So it's beyond things you can do yourself because maybe you worked through it in all the ways you know how, but maybe your brain hasn't figured out how to reconnect to the physical part that's being stored there. And so there aren't a lot of good ways to do that yourself, but sometimes you can just like put your hand over your organ. So I actually think it's easiest to feel the liver because it's giant. So if you lay down for a second, and your liver is basically, it's on your right side and it takes up this whole area. So if you just put your hand kind of at the bottom of your rib cage, you have to be really calm and quiet. And you'll feel it moving. So if you just let your hand sit there, and you're not going to press into it. You're just going to let the weight of your hand kind of sit under the bottom of your rib cage. Maybe 2 fingers are on your rib cage. Maybe the other 2 fingers are below it. And you're just going to try to sink into the floor. And imagine your hand just gently sinking through the layers of skin. And imagine it sinking through the ribs. Just kind of getting under there. Maybe take a deep breath and let the weight of your hand just sink a little more. And you're going to eventually feel, you may have to sink through a couple other layers of tissue. You sink through a slippery tissue, you're almost to the organ. And you might feel it rolling under your hand. And that's the best word I have to describe it because it moves in 3 planes. And so you may not, unless you're tuned into it, feel it necessarily moving into your midline and away from your midline or up and down, returning. But it'll feel like this kind of rolling ripple if it's actually moving. And if it doesn't feel like a rolling ripple and it feels like a clunk, then your liver is having a problem. It's got a mobility problem. And that could be physical or emotional. And if it doesn't move at all, then it's got a bigger problem. But you should feel it kind of moving in and out of your midline every 4 seconds. But you have to be super quiet in your body with your hand to actually feel it. But sometimes just putting your hand over your organ will give it just a little bit of feedback to tell it it's okay. And sometimes if it is just mildly immobile, it will restore its own motion. If it's got a bigger problem in it and it's not hardly mobile at all, or it's not moving in multiple planes, it probably needs a little more input than that. But sometimes just connecting to yourself in that way, even if you don't know exactly where your organs are, everything from here to here, you're going to find an organ somewhere. And if it feels hot when you touch it or when you're above it, or if you put your hand on it and you just don't really feel any movement, just hold it there for a minute and sit with it. And you can kind of give yourself a little love that way and restore some motion to your organ. But if it feels like there's something deeper there and there's more tension, there are things we can do in clinic that kind of remap it to the brain and do some actual treatment in that way, physical treatment. But it is emotional aspect. So some people do have pretty serious emotional releases with it. I mean, when it was first done to me, I cried for like 30 minutes on the table. So, and some of those things are old and some of those things are new, and some people can identify them and some people can't. But there are ways to release that. So,
Awesome.
Amy, have any questions?
Awesome.
Dr. Avery, Colleen, we'll take you to the next part.
Awesome. That's awesome. I want to say, does anybody want to take a mocktail break? I know we've been sitting. Does anybody need San Pellegrino blood orange thing or anything at all? Does anybody want to get up?
The blood orange is so good.
It is.
20, what did we say? Sugar.
I was like, what's in this? There's no terrible ingredients. Like 24 grams of sugar.
That's why it's
But
delicious.
it's only like 12 if you have half of it. So okay. If we're all good.
Colin, I can't figure out your camera.
What's that?
I don't know how to do the camera.
That's okay. We'll help you. There we go. I'm just putting it here really quick.
Technology eludes.
So I want to hear from y'all while we set this up. What are some of your any ha-has while you were doing yoga or with what Dr. Casey just shared? Is any aha happening where you've experienced something in your body that you feel resonated or emotionally you could identify? Is anything pinging? I really like collaboration. I really like to have a chance to share if you want to. But anything just little nuggets or highlights from what has happened already?
The first thing is just noticing how much breath affects how your whole body feels. I mean, it's not the first time I've noticed, obviously, but just it feels good to stretch, but then all of a sudden you focus on your breath, and it's just totally different.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I think just this sorry.
No, go for it.
Just this idea of feeling curious about what your body is feeling. Getting tired and trying rather than firing getting heart palpitations. If you feel heart palpitations, you might be like, oh my god, I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Or you can just get really quiet. Anxiety.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just run and go with this. So I'm gonna do a time check here. Okay. Cool. Okay. So. My name's Colleen Coles. I am a teacher at heart. I am a speaker at heart, and it just manifested into being a life coach. And then that kind of manifested into finding out I have this interesting gift to be able to tune into somebody's energy. We connect to the light, or we channel kind of the light. I lead a meditation to do that. And then all of a sudden, we use the body to show where the person is having an issue. So whether it's related to abundance, whether it's related to a relationship thing, whatever it is the person wants to unblock to make their life better, we then tune into the body. The body speaks. The body speaks. And when we talk to that, we can identify with certain questions that I ask where exactly that energy block, because I speak energy terms, where that, and the nervous system, but in this context, energy terms. We identify where this energy block came from, who it came from, exactly how old you were, and then it's insane, but 100% of the time when I've asked my client, does any memory come up of where this happened to you, it always comes up. Always comes up, or it's a series of different memories, because sometimes these things happen because it's with your dad. That's how your dad was. So then the gift part of it is being able for me to see this motion picture that starts in my head, of my mind, and we literally help heal that memory and that energy in real time, giving it what it really needs and letting it go with the light. Or it's a spiritual, energetic healing, but we use the body and we know it's complete when that energy releases. So, all that to say, what I am excited to talk to y'all about tonight is about how to kind of blend these worlds of the everyday emotional kind of chaos we can go through with also our physical bodies and what our body is telling us. Because I was someone who came from a family of lawyers. I was an elementary teacher, and I was kind of just taught to push through, get the A. And if my shoulder started to really hurt, fuck you, shoulder, I gotta get this done. It just had to happen, and I achieved that way. And at the same time, all of a sudden I have cystic acne, and it's just not going away. Or my shoulder is constantly aching. Or in a different context, I was Catholic. I was really Catholic growing up, and I decided to wait till marriage to find my person, and I did find my person. But even after we got married, my sexuality never turned on, and it was stuck. I never remembered having any sexual trauma, but I was acting like I did, And so I went on this journey of studying Tantra to be able to help that and help our relationship. And through doing that, I kind of woke up to my body, woke up to this gift, and realized how our body is speaking, and we can really listen to get ahead to, one, be our most authentic self, which then helps everybody in our lives, and two, actually be more productive in whatever it is we want to do. It's like a new way of looking at it. In a more feminine approach versus a masculine arrow, it's more of a collective healing and using teamwork with our body, which is our vehicle, to then heal. So the reason this all came up of teaching this workshop was, let me just say that when we do that, results are phenomenal of people like healing broken relationships that were on the brink of divorce into feeling safe again in those same intimate relationships, being their true self. Or like when I really did this process, what I'll teach tonight about the boundaries and what our emotions are saying, like that's when I took my struggling business to 4xing the income of it in like a span of like 6 months. It's like when we are allowed to be ourselves because we start to listen to what our body is saying and then give it what it needs to heal through the boundaries we set and through paying attention to ourselves, that's when things start to click. And that's when like the result I like to say I deliver is like a dream life lived, being your authentic self. That's when that starts to dance. And so I was a client of Emily's when I had a baby back in 2019, and she really helped me physically. And at the time, I still was looking for like a spiritual component because I felt like there was deeper stuff. And then when we reconnected, I realized, okay, it's both and that's why we're doing this, because it is physical and it is emotional and it is a spiritual mindset thing as well. So it was only about 2 months ago when I was sitting on a call with one of I call her a friend tour. She's like a friend mentor. And she has this little collective group for healing and for growth and stuff like that. And I finally was given the space to just share how I was really feeling. And she's also super empathic, borderline psychic. And she was like, I think you have something more in your heart and in your stomach that needs to release. So I'm just going to let you sit with that. And part of me was like, no, but I did, and all of a sudden the tears started to come and the thoughts started to come, and she asked me, what are you thinking? And I was thinking things that I felt were like not allowed to be said. And come to find out, not saying them was the shame that kept me blocked and stopped in so many other areas of my life. Because it's one of my philosophies, and it's been said a lot, that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if I'm locked in my voice because I feel like what I have to really say or what I really feel inside isn't okay, I'm going to be blocked in my money. If I feel blocked in my creativity, I'm going to be blocked in my relationship because it all flows, meaning I can't express. So when we start to express in one area, whether it's through our yoni or whether it's through our writing or our creativity or whatever, we start to let it all out. And that's when life gets fun and we can start to feel free. And so the thought that I had that came up when I felt I could not say was just that I wish I didn't have a kid. And I was like, that's the thing you can't say. Or I really wasn't ready to have a kid, even though I'm really grateful for it. But just saying that was so healing. And I started bursting out crying and I started to really say it. And all of a sudden I remembered myself just through that compassionate truth telling out loud in a group of compassionate, non-judgmental people. And that's kind of what we have tonight. And by the end, if you want to go further, I have an opportunity to continue to do that in this group workshop experience called Strong Not Mean, where it's like a collective of women I'm putting together to be able to continue working on this in a way where at the end you get that transformation of feeling really yourself, but being able to put boundaries in place and speak them in a way that it sticks without losing those that you love. So I'm going to give you everything I got in this 40 minutes so that you guys can tonight walk away with a way of speaking out what your truth is, what your boundary is, to be able to really walk that confidently. Does that sound good? Okay, great. So what's nuts is that after that experience of simply being able to express the truth, let out the emotion, feel it in my body, and then realize, like, what's the real truth? The truth was that I was still inside. I felt like a part of me seriously died, or like my gusto had like totally left, or I had my best years before, and now I'm a mom. Like somehow that meant, I mean, I don't know, can anybody relate to that? Okay. And who's a mom in here? Okay, cool, but universal, yeah. So I've refound through that, this sense that, like, one, it's okay to speak the truth. Two, it's okay to have compassion and want something different. And three, like, whenever something, a trauma or something that was, the one definition of trauma is an event or an experience that happened too much, too fast, too soon. So even if it was a planned, like, pregnancy, but the birth was nuts, or it can be anything. If it happened too much, too fast, too soon, that's what can get locked in the body, and it can be considered a trauma. Trauma really only shows up in domesticated animals and humans. It doesn't show up in wild animals, because even though they have way more traumatic events happen to them, it's not what happened to us, it's what didn't happen. It's what wasn't explained. It's what wasn't released. It's what wasn't expressed. And so when we allow ourselves to express that, and also stand up for our own selves and provide safety for ourselves in a new way, that's when that trauma can regulate out and we can feel more ourselves. That's the point. The whole point of this, to me, is to feel free being yourself, and therefore then live out whatever you're here to live out. So what's nuts is just by those things and realizing my trueness was still there, it just was a little dusty. I just forgot it a little bit. That next morning, it was like I was radically changed. But here's what happened. Here's why. Is I refound this ability to set my own boundaries again. Because since having a kid, it was like that was my kryptonite. And I want you to start to think about, in terms of boundary land, in terms of standing up for yourself, saying yes when you mean yes, saying no when you mean no, what is your kryptonite? Like, where do you seem to falter and then feel yucky about it, resentful, regretful, whatever? Mine was my son, because, like, I help heal trauma from childhood all day. And so now that I have somebody who is a child, like, I'm like trying not to create shadow for him and trying not to create those memories when actually that's impossible. However, I would say no all the time. That next morning, I woke up early to do like an energy cleanse on myself. I try to do that in the morning. I try to have that me time before it's interrupted. But where my self-esteem and my boundaries would break and I would feel like this learned helpless blah again was when my son would wake up early, even during my me time, and come bombard that. And I had this unconscious belief that, well, I have to do what he wants to do. Like, I don't get to choose anymore. I see Candace nodding in the back. I'm glad somebody can relate. Yeah. But for the first time, just after that little process and refining that power, I was able to sit in my chair and be like, you know what, Anthony, hello, I'm glad you're awake. Mommy's not available yet. And I have an energy cleanse to do. But Daddy will take care of you until 6 o'clock, period. Like, that was it. And he was like, I think in his head thinking, no, but Mommy, let's play. No, but energetically something had shifted. And it was like, no, really, you get to go with Daddy. Now what's crazy, as you can imagine, my child had a total fit, total outrage. And a lot of people that talk to me are like, what happens when you set a boundary and people don't like it? You still set it anyway. And you know that they're going to be okay. That's basically the bottom line. You know, especially for adults, their emotional reality is their responsibility. And it's okay for them to have their experience. You can trust them to handle it, just like I can trust my 3-year-old to handle it. So his dad came out, he really grabbed him, and as he did, and I really realized that they were leaving, my whole body relaxed. It was like I had never felt that since having a child, where I realized I was in my own container, it was mine, and it was like Donna was just saying about relaxation, even in the source of chaos, because I felt safe. I felt safe, even with those that I loved. And as he was crying and walking away, he hit my mint herb. And I felt, and he was screaming, and all of a sudden, I smelled this mint. And it was like the sense of freedom. It was this beautiful, like, fresh air like I've never seen, even though there was chaos going around me. And so that's where this, like, idea of blending healing trauma, healing even pelvic trauma, with setting boundaries was born, because of that experience, to see we get to do that, and it's freeing to be able to say who you are and do what you want and let that be enough. So I want to keep the teaching of this kind of shorter so that you guys can actually workshop this and kind of have a specific place to start to set a boundary and, like, walk the talk. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to cover is how this works, how boundaries are your birthright, and then we're going to workshop this with your emotions leading the way to show you where it's best for you to start setting your boundary. Okay, cool. So the reason this works is, like, again, I said, trauma is not what happens to you, it's what doesn't happen to you. And when let me ask you this. Who has any issue with, like, commitment? Like, for me, I would say I would be somewhere at a certain time and then I wouldn't. Like, I'd be, that's a bold thing to say to a group of women we don't really know. But, like, yeah, I mean, or for, like, a date night. I'm like, yeah, we'll do it, like, a different time, or we can just watch a movie. There was something with commitment. It was a therapist who had said to me that people who've had a lot of trauma tend to not want to make commitments because they feel trapped. Isn't that crazy? And similarly, when we are feeling, and if you want to raise your hand boldly, because again, shame loves silence, Brene Brown has said, and so when we claim it, we let it pass over the bound. The power goes away from it. But if we've ever had a hard time saying no, if we've ever had a hard time not people pleasing, if we've ever had a hard time, like, really leaving somebody even though they're not complete, but we're complete, like in a conversation or something like that, that can be kind of symptoms of us feeling like it's not allowed to have a boundary. Okay, so when trauma happens to us, when something too much, too fast, too soon happens to us, we don't have a choice in that moment. Like, our choice is taken away. We are overpowered, or we are frozen and we didn't choose. Because when our body responds that way, it's totally unconscious. We don't get to choose in that moment. Our body takes over that autonomic nervous system. So then that creates a channel in our brain that says, like, it's an important memory. And essentially, the way that we use our time can be a reflection of what trauma has happened to us. So, for example, if, like, when Anthony was little and he would cry a lot, and I still had coaching clients or calls to go to, it was like, Colleen, you're the only one that can soothe him. You need to breastfeed him. And I thought that was the only thing I had to do or could do to help him sleep. So I breastfeed him, and for 40 minutes, let him go. He would cry, so I put him back, and then all of a sudden I'd be late for my call, and I'd be a little more late. And I would just feel like dead inside, that it was like, well, I don't matter anymore. I can't do this. That right there is an unconscious reiteration or experience of some other point or many points of when I got to choose or would have said, like, this is where I want to go to dinner, but my dad was super overpowering and angry, like, would dominate. I would just, right, no, I'm going to go where you want to go. So it's like trauma takes away our power, takes away our choice. So as adults, we get to give ourselves what we didn't get, what we didn't need at that time of being a kid. Like, we get to be our own healers. I don't know if any of you follow Dr. Nicole LaPera. She's a great person. I like to consider myself a curator. So, like, I read a lot of books, I just, like, see all this stuff and then can pinpoint it. But Dr. Nicole LaPera is a really great resource to understand more in depth in this. But essentially, when we've had stuff happen to us, our choice got broken, our boundaries got broken, And so it can make us believe that we don't deserve to have them, that we don't get to have them, that we don't get to have a choice. When we're adults, we get the opportunity, when we're conscious to it, when we're aware of it, to shift that. And the way that we shift it is through actually giving ourselves that protection through our voice, that protection through our no, and to really get clear on what it is we want and like what does it take to go to it. Okay, so I want everybody just to put their hand on their heart and their belly, and put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and just take a deep breath in with me. Hold at the top, and exhale. Hold at the bottom. One more inhale. Hold. And exhale. And hold. Continue that breath if you'd like. Go ahead and open your eyes. And this is a tool for your pocket. Anytime you feel out of control, or if emotion comes up that you feel, I don't know, you want to look at, or you feel triggered in any way, just take a look to your left and start to notice what's around you, moving your neck. Look straight and kind of past, like as if there was a big horizon behind me. Just notice what you see. And then look to the right and notice what you see. Maybe 3 things, point them out in your mind. And now look behind you. Just notice what you are. Notice that you're safe. There's nothing behind you. I just like to say that because talking about this on the logical plane is very black and white, but on our body, coming back to Dr. Sayers' point, the body remembers, the body keeps the score, and it can bring up some emotion. So that's just any time if you're in an argument or you hear something that's triggering, just allow yourself to do that if you're overwhelmed. Because I want to hear from y'all too. When we were doing preparation for this, a lot of what we heard was that people feel really overwhelmed with time right now. Is that, can I see your like raise of hands? Is that something? Yeah, okay, cool. And what about with like personal relationships, like whether it's kids or whether it's your parents or like your family, just not being able to corral your time or your relationships, like feel safe in your relationships, kind of? Yeah, cool. So this stuff is what can help, because with all that being said, by us getting clear on what our yes really is and what our no really is, and we're going to do that in a second, you can allow yourself to have those protection layers that you didn't have. You can allow yourself to be restored choice. Okay? Does this make sense? It's weird because where these lovely ladies work out is from kind of the hips, the emotions, and up. And I kind of work the opposite of like looking at symptoms of a person's life as kind of a life coach, seeing what wants to change, and then tuning into something spiritually and asking for the body to respond so we can clear it. And that's where the body comes. So my approach, at least, to seeing how we can help ourselves is by simply starting to have a boundary around what you want, claiming it, and committing to that, committing to yourself, because that's what's going to make, even if there's a little bit of a ripple first, your relationships better. It's going to make people really respect you. And you're going to start to feel really satisfied in your life and feeling like, because here's the thing, with time especially, time management is a real bugaboo. And when I recognize where I feel out of control with time, it's when I say yes to too many things. That's like literally lack of boundary, right? Why do I say yes? Because maybe it's I don't want them to be mad at me. People do think. Maybe it's that I think I don't have a choice. Trauma response. See what I'm saying? Maybe it's that I want to genuinely do so many things, but I don't realize my own container, boundary, time. So really, when we get clear on what we truly want, what we value, and like the focus to do it, that's when things start to flow and we can feel safe in our body. So when we do that, just like I did it with my son, it's like our whole body starts to respond, and then we can take the next step. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll answer this, but how do we set a boundary when we don't think we can even set that boundary?
Great question. Is
Uh,
there any specific example?
yes, 100%. Okay, so high level. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years.
Okay.
And this past year, I decided my husband was finally making enough that like I could really focus on my business, and I felt like he had money taken care of. My kids were old enough. I started focusing on my business, and then he quit his job because it was a toxic work environment. So it was fine. But now the focus is on his business, and probably gonna cry.
That's okay.
Anyway, feeling a lot of anger and resentment because I felt like it was spending my time.
Yeah.
And now the focus is back on him, especially because he's been the provider. He feels this need to provide for our giant family and everything. And we had decided to work on a schedule, but he started doing accounting, so obviously tax season and today. So there was a lot of like, okay, I will give you your time, but right now I need mine. And I was like, okay, logically that makes sense. But then it was like, okay, well, once tax season's over, I need one more week. And I keep feeling like logically it makes sense because he's already making money and we have to fit your family somehow. But I feel so angry that I can't even ask for my time. Clearly, there's a lot.
That's huge. Yeah.
Anyway, so it feels like, I don't know, like logistically, I feel like I just can't even ask.
So let's go into workshop time. So notice the emotions, right? You say anger. What else?
A lot of resentment
Resentment
and bitterness.
and bitterness. Yeah. So step one is to recognize that our emotions are truly there for us. They're not random. They're not supposed to be there. Like there's no shame around anger. Like it's a good thing to feel that. When we like hit somebody, not the best. You know that as well. But it's okay to have those, and it is healthy to express them. So really the first step, and this might not make sense, but it will in context, I want to recommend, what was your name again?
Marin.
Marin, cool. It's funny, that's what a lot of the emotions were coming up for me too, with my child. And I walked this, what I was about to say, and it really helps me. Especially with any shame around anger in women, is to have it's like a sacred rage practice. Because the quicker we can let these emotions out of our body, the more we're going to reclaim our power and your voice to express the truth, which is what? What do you feel is the truth? What do you deserve?
I think I deserve to share myself with people.
What does that mean?
I think, I don't know what it means, and I think I deserve the time to figure it out. And I feel like I haven't had the time to figure it out.
Right. So you deserve time. Yeah. Which is what you shared just now too. Great. So for anybody who has these emotions, especially as we're getting clear, right? A sacred rage practice looks like we're decluttering the space, so you have that clarity and groundedness to then get to see that you have a choice in expressing this. And we're gonna get to that. But a sacred rage practice, it's so powerful for women. I gotta tell you, because we just transgenerationally, meaning grandmas, mothers, etc., have had anger is wrong. And so we pint it up, but how we do one thing is how we do most things. So what else are we pinting up? Our businesses, our ability to speak what we need, our time, our creativity, whatever it is. So just set a timer for 15 to 20 minutes and basically go batshit crazy. And it's when you get close the door, put on some music. In fact, I have a playlist. If you want, I can send it to y'all. Just rage. Hit the bed, scream as loud as you can. Like that guttural, you're scared scream. Like people would be scared if you scream. Hit the bed with the broom. Have a tantrum on the bed. I like to go to the gym and beat the shit out of that boxing bag. And then it feels even good that people are kind of watching me and I don't give a crap. Who's gonna mess with me now? you know? So, but literally just letting all of that emotion out of you, like almost like a purge, can be so helpful because you will express, you will let go, and you will feel like you're complete for then, like an empty. And as that dust settles, you'll be able to hear your own self again and recognize your power. Because the truth is, you're right. You deserve to have your time, and you deserve to speak that out. Because what I'm hearing with your share is that, did he give you notice that he was quitting?
We kind of knew, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you kind of knew it was coming,
But
but
it come faster than I thought, though.
it did?
Yeah.
Cool. So too much, too fast, too soon, right? Especially with your like open window towards the time to have your business. So basically, it sounds like what's happening is that there was an agreement, there was a shift of the agreement. It was okay for a little bit, but there was no containment on the shift. So now it's happening where it's, well, one more week. And like all I can see, it's weird. All I can see is like a woman in the kitchen in the 50s with an apron and the window open and the curtains are blowing. And she's just asking when it's going to be her turn. But yet she's expected to just stand in the kitchen and keep making everybody dinner. Like this shit goes way, it's not shit. This stuff goes way back. The way to fix this is to recognize that, like you said, logically this makes sense. Logically, you have the right to make this even make more sense. Which means to me is re-looking at the agreement and being like, well, when is the cap? So there's 5 pillars of this whole thing. Authenticity, triggers like you have been, emotion, so resentment is talking to you, anger is talking to you, communication, and the boundaries. So this next piece is kind of about that communication. That's part of that workshop piece. But and it can shift, but there's kind of some through lines. Essentially, Marin, what I want to recommend is that you claim time. So like, what's maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours you could have this weekend or this week where you get to go and be alone or have the quiet time to journal this out and express to yourself what you want. Like, is that a possibility that you could have that time? Cool. So like start with that. So then you give yourself the time to figure it out. And I want you to figure out like what is it that you want, even if his thing changes, because boundaries are not to control other people. Boundaries are to help us feel safe. Okay? So right now it sounds like your business doesn't feel safe. You don't feel safe. It's like out of control because you don't have any claim here. But men logically, like they get stuff. So it's like, okay, so the agreement was this. You're changing the agreement. Yesterday was tax day. And now you're saying a couple more weeks. Here's a line, works for a lot of stuff. That's not gonna work for me. Like that just slices. That's not gonna work for me. I wanna talk about what will. Has anybody with their spouse ever had an issue or a partner where like they said they were gonna do something and then they don't? And then they pretend it's not a big deal, but it kind of is. Because really it's like an underlying thing of trust and mistrust, right? Yeah. So when I talk to my husband in this way, and again, it can be nuanced, etc., but there are certain through lines, and I come back to this like, wait, dudes get logic. I'm being logical. I deserve to be heard. It's like, okay, cool. So you didn't want to do the dishes? Okay, right. You said you would, and they're still not done. When will you get them complete? And it's like, in like 2 hours. He's like, whatever. That's when you can say, okay, great. And in that 2 hours, if it doesn't happen, what's going to happen? Like, can we decide right now what's going to be a real consequence? Like, that's a true conversation. And when my husband had to be we had to reconnect our contract to this, I wrote this on the fridge and it was banned. It's like, if you don't do what you say, then I get to go to the movies alone because that's what I really want to do. And you get to take care of Anthony. Do you agree? And he signed it. Like, this can be almost where the emotion gets taken out. Or like, he's a massage therapist. I'm like, then you get to give me a back massage for 10 minutes. Every minute, you're late. Like, we can make it fun and playful, but with this essence that I'm here, I deserve to speak, I matter. So essentially, Marin, I think you just need to have a containment and a new agreement, and like, there's actually consequences. Because we can speak a boundary all day, but the way it becomes real is when we stand behind it and take an action after. Does that make sense? Yeah. Is that helpful? Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Need to come out, I think.
Good. How do you feel now with it being said?
I do feel a little better, like recognizing the feelings. I can tell there's a lot of other things
Yeah.
back there.
Cool. So it's like almost proportional. Like if there's like a huge vat of emotions and you got that much out, do you feel that much better? Like there's
Yeah.
still more. Yeah. So it's like literally the more that we release and let it go, this is healthy, this is normal, this is natural. Okay, so let's get into some workshopping time. I want you to think about where do you feel resentment's a really great emotion to work with. So I just want you to consider where you feel resentful in your life. If it's maybe it's resentful or it's angry. And you might even be able to go right to this question, which is like, where do you know you need to set a boundary? Okay, so just take a minute to think, where do you know you need to set a boundary? Because you feel resentful about the situation. Some places where boundaries can come up with our time, right? Whether it's people bombarding us or us not showing up for ourselves in our time. It can be with an intimate relationship, with our parents, with our children, with colleagues, right? Does everybody have something like loud or ready and clear? Yeah? Cool. So I want us to just have a second. Oh my gosh. To express this with a partner, okay? So just look to somebody, and I just want you to express the situation in like a little nutshell, okay? How it makes you feel, and what you feel you need. Like, what do you need? So, for example, Marin said, yes, I have an example. This is what's happening. I feel really resentful and angry, and I need time, right? So, does that feel okay to share with a partner? There's so much we could get into of like why this might feel scary and stuff like that, and we'll save that for another time, a different day. But just for now, trust me on this, that allowing yourself to go down the rabbit hole is really going to help you feel more yourself and empowered. So what's the situation? How does it make you feel? And what do you think you need? Turn to a partner. Go.
I think you should assign partners.
Okay. You two. Do you know each other?
Yeah.
Okay, you two. Okay. You two. And you two. Do you know each other? Ish?
Yeah.
So
Is that everybody who's a participant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or we could 2, 4, 6, 8. Or do you guys want to share? You don't. If you guys want to participate, you can. There's enough people. Okay, cool. So let's do that. So 2. Do you know each other? Okay, great. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Let's get it.
Right.
It's not like that, and it's like almost, it's like a joke,
Yeah.
but also, if you were to start one person like that, it's almost like an easy word to so I do have like in 5 minutes and it takes me like hours. You know, so yes, how I want
You have to like try to figure out something. It's so like so weird. It was so much. I think both of us are frustrated. So they're like, why you know, why you didn't you know? And they like I broke it down. It was I started to get more into my life. So that's the person that came in my mind. I can't.
Person one, go ahead and start to wrap up. If you haven't shifted already, let the other person share. If you haven't shifted, turn.
Yeah, you say something or whatever, I'm like, I've read yours, you know? So I think you know, I don't even just I feel it's always so maybe getting through like my
Watching, thanks for watching. Feel free to journal about this. I don't have a partner to share. But essentially, again, what's going on? Where do you feel you need a boundary? How does it make you feel? And what is it making you realize you need? Let's wrap up. I want to do some. I want you to take inventory of how you feel right now, just sharing that. Maybe it's more revved up. Maybe there's like kind of a catharsis. I love this part, and we could go longer, and if you have more time, definitely. But just notice how it feels to just express it, right? It's like, and to really, what was so fun to be able to watch that was to be able to see your guys' like eye connection, right? And like really get that somebody else got it or was at least listening, right? And so just notice that and notice the power, because the truth is like we heal really great in tribe. Like we're not always meant to heal alone, kind of like a Western psychologist perspective. It's actually tribal how especially women heal. So this is powerful. Would anybody like to share to be able to kind of workshop this? Or I would just love to hear, like, if anything specifically comes to mind of what's going on.
I didn't have time to talk about mine.
Please.
But
Yeah.
I do have a question for you that's related to
Okay.
mine, which is, what are the dynamics like between you and your husband when you're like, I think I want to do this, or I think we should do this, or like, how, like, what is the dynamic? Like, is he on? Like, how do you get him on board? Basically, because I get a lot of pushback.
Is there a really specific example that you have?
I'm trying to think. I mean, more so, I think it's that he's like slacking in his own self-care. So a lot of times I'm like, you should go out with your friends, or you should go to the gym, or like, you should like take care of yourself, like, it's fine. He'll kind of be like, no. And then it makes me feel like I can't either.
Ooh, big one. Can anybody relate to that?
Yeah.
That's big. That
And like
blew
in
my
parenting,
mind.
it's always like, well, you got to go out, and I get to go out. And so now it always feels like it has to be like this back and forth
Yeah.
of, well, like, well, you're gonna watch him this time, and then I'm gonna watch him.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just want to know, like, what are the dynamics like in your relationship? Like, how does that work?
Please help. Yeah, that was my life for a long time until I recognized, like, this is not working for me. Number one, short answer is this is contractual kind of love. And it makes sense when we have a little baby or a little child, because all of a sudden there's this new priority to balance and, like, survival mode, right? But the truth is that our love for each other does not have to be contractual. Okay? So it's almost like you guys have this cord in between you. And it's this cord that creates a balance system. And so, it sounds like, if we're getting deeper, Donna, tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like more deeply you care about him and you want him to be able to take his me time so that you can take your me time.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, cool. So, and therefore, if you don't take this me time, I don't get what I want. So, like, hey, please, like, go out, go to friends, like, please, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So the truth is, that's a form of codependency, meaning I can't be happy until you're happy. I can't get my need met until your needs met. Therefore, I am very, very invested in you getting your need met so I can get mine, right? The truth is that, yeah, you're your own independent person. He is his own independent person. And you get to have your needs met even if he chooses to not meet his own. And that's a big shift from a lot of what we've witnessed growing up and what a lot of, again, transgenerational relationships have genetically taught us is okay. But we're in a new era. And, like, that's just true, just logically true. Like, we just never will feel satisfied, and it's just not the highest level of love to have it be so contractual. If you get this, then I get that. I mean, my husband and I, when we were doing, like, money together, it was like getting to the grain of, like, well, you had more of that hot sauce than I did. Like, you should buy it. Like, you should have more grocery money going to that. And it's like, so coach, again, somebody who's outside of the situation had to point out, like, what are you going to count the squares of toilet paper now? Like, what's going on? This isn't true love. This isn't going to make you feel supported. And, like, let's face it, it's hairy when you have children. Like, you need to work together. We need to have this relationship be as strong as possible. So, you don't need him to be happy for you to be happy. You don't need him to have his needs met to get yours met. So if he does not choose that for himself, then the boundary to kind of set is just, even if it's like coming from intimacy first, right? And exploring, like, you know what? Wow, yeah, I want to talk about, can we spend some time together? It's like right before bed or something. I went to this workshop, we talked about this. And it's like coming from our experience, right? Because when we set boundaries as if it's like an ultimatum or it's about them, shut off the fence. But when we come from the place of honesty and curiosity, that's when the person is like watching the movie with us. They're curious about this. And so, for example, it's like I was at this workshop and it really surprised me how it brought up a lot for me. And we talked kind of about where we need to set boundaries and where we feel certain emotions. And I wanted to actually talk about it with you a little bit because I wanna feel whatever, safe or right. So from there, the boundary, what would you say you need here, Donna?
No, I think it's not necessarily that I don't do things anyway. It's just that I feel guilty.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go meet some friends. But then part of me is like, well, I
Okay,
feel guilty
love this.
for
Who
that.
here feels like they sometimes can't express themselves to the people they love because they might attack us or something? Like they won't get it. Right. So when we think about talking about this, it can make our animal body feel like, no, like it's not safe. I'm not going to be receptive. But turning this around to say, how could this build more intimacy? Like you really do have an opportunity to build more intimacy and connection and love. That can take some time. That can take a little bit of, I guess, training, but I want you to know it's possible. So for example, to be able to say like, I just want to, like, I realized while I was there, like I was feeling really guilty. I realized that I want you to be happy too. And I think sometimes when we connect or we have each other go do things, like we think the other person has to do the same amount of things. And then I thought that's weird and crazy. I don't know. Do you ever feel that way? Like, is it true that I should really feel guilty? And like just those stepping stones can help. Maybe he doesn't even care. But you're thinking it because your mom and your grandma, they were always doing that. So that opens a portal to be like, not should I, but I feel guilty. Like, are you mad at me? To just bring it back into objective reality. That's what takes the emotion away, and we start to get to that logical, just objective containment to say, this is happening, this is what I want. Yeah. So when I started doing that, I really started to shift, and I felt safe around him. Because a lot of my clients, it's with their partners they feel the least safe with. And it sucks, because that's the person we should feel the most safe with. But when they don't get it, when they don't really support us, when there's resentment there, when there's codependency, then it's hard and we feel alone, even with the people that are meant to be right there with us. But when we communicate, when you start to claim how we feel inside, because that's the thing, he might not even know that you feel that way. He might, but he might feel a certain way. And you don't know. So just being able to express ourselves, open up, and communicate these places for ourselves and our true commitment to it with a consequence to it. Like I am going to go to the workshop, and if you can't watch, Calder, then I'm gonna call XYZ. I'm gonna make it happen because this is mine, right? And you can have your own experience. That's the cool thing about boundaries and communication. It's for you, and you are the one in charge with the choice to make something happen. If you need to have something, you don't have to just rely on somebody else. You can call the next person. You can make the next choice. This is about you and your power. Thank you for sharing. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So essentially, I want to be mindful of time. It's 8:42. So I just want to say for this piece, and if we have time, if we want to workshop it more, we can. But for this piece, essentially, the bottom line is this: let your emotions speak to you, and get clear on yourself. Because again, this is like when you take ownership of this, that's when you take back that first step of power, because you realize you are able to respond. You are able to respond. That is what responsibility is for the good things and the bad things. Even if it's guilt or shame. Like, I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible to take care of that. But letting our emotions speak to us, then to say, what is it telling me I need? We'll know. We will know. Time. Me time. Free from guilt time. Like, we will know. And then the next step is what needs to happen to make that real. That's really emotion, by getting calm and quiet with ourselves, compassionate. What is it telling me that I need, and how can I communicate that to that person. And then you take that step. Before taking that step, we might feel like we're going to die a little bit, because when we tried to take that step when we were children, we kind of felt like we were going to die if we got in trouble for it. But I want to remember all the way back full circle that you are not a child anymore, and you get to be your own protector, you get to be your own parent. And so if that emotion comes up when logically you know this is going to help you, this is going to help everybody, when there's no guilt in between you guys, and when there's no resentment in between you guys, that's going to help everybody. When mommy's happy, mommies or the women in a family unit or a unit are the ones that set the emotional thermostat in the whole unit. So just think about that. The happier you are, the permission you're giving to give everybody happiness. Where I was going with that is you're going to feel scared right beforehand, and in that moment, you can just remind yourself, oh, right, that's the liver talking with that sadness, and this is actually really good. This is just my inner child right here, but I'm going to show up for them, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to die. I was just reading The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, and she just spoke about that when I was reading today, that she finally said, and the scariest thing, the worst case scenario happened to her, but she realized she didn't die. It was so freeing. She danced around the room. She's like, okay, they did scream at me. When she said, oh, I won't loan you the money to a friend. And the friend got so mad and yelled, and she was like, oh my God, it's happening and I'm fine. This is ridiculous. What else is possible? I'm free to speak. I'm free to have this. That's the power of when we actually set the boundary and follow through. It's really powerful. Anyway, so that's kind of a little step process to take home tonight. I just want to really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, invite you into a container. If this feels resonant, if you're like, I want to go deeper, or there's more pieces to this, like, I truly want to invite you to this container I'm creating called Strong, Not Mean. And it's really about how to be your badass, bold self without losing those you love. And it's an 8-week container of live workshops. They will be online because we have some people already who are out of state and around the world. But it's going to be 8 weeks where we're going over, it's live workshops. You just got to show up. If you can't show up, you're there for the replay, but you're just going to learn about these 5 things that by the end of it, you can know how and have the tools to do it to feel your most authentic, badass, bold self and communicate the boundaries you need to set while still having people around you that you love and being okay if certain people have to leave. Like, that's real freedom. But it's all about authenticity, triggers in your nervous system, and understanding yourself. So essentially, you can put yourself back to Humpty Dumpty again. Like, if you fall apart, you know how to do that. Emotions and what they're saying to you, communication and boundaries. And we're starting May 11th. And just every week up until then, there's going to be certain bonuses. And right now, this week, it's 3 calls with me, one-on-one, where we have like an initial, it's more than a consult. It's a 30-minute session with me to see what's going on, what I recommend, and where to start, and then a check-in call each month. And if you want to sign up tonight, the whole thing, the whole 8-week experience, the whole tribal healing, the learning, the growth from all of this, it's $5.99 for the 8 calls. But there's a payment plan available, like, I'm willing to be flexible. But if you want to sign up tonight, I have an extra little bonus, which is the Boundaries Roadmap Bundle. And it's a 3-part series about learning exactly this roadmap to start using this today so you can start to have transformation right now. And I'm just so passionate about this work because it's what sets us free, and we just need the tools to be able to do it. And once you have like the literal scripts on what to say and the way to do it and your energy being behind it, you are so powerful. And it's like, I'm so passionate because like this is what heals our grandmothers' lives, and this is what heals our children, is to be able to step up into our authentic power and really get to stand behind it. That's what literally creates your dream life. It's literally like the structure of your life. Life when you stand up for yourself, but do it in a way where you don't burn bridges and you don't become a doormat. So anyway, please come talk to me. I have a little QR code if you want to register right now, and we'll get your call set up and stuff like that. But I just want to thank you so much for coming out, and thank these guys, Emily and Casey, too. And we look forward to hopefully doing it again soon. And if there's any other questions, I mean, I want to be respectful of the boundary of time. And if you guys have any, ladies have any other questions or anything you want to workshop, I'm here and I'd love to hear it. So I just want to say thank you, Bill, for your time. Thank you. Yeah. Do y'all have any questions at all?
It smells good.
Awesome. I have a form here too, if you want to sign up for for these guys, if you want to, I know they do a consultation, but a lot of you guys are their clients. And then if you want to sign up for like a call with me just to talk about any logistics or how this could apply for you, you can do it right here. And I have a little, it's like a grounding tool that comes with it. So yeah, feel free.
Feel free to grab some drinks.
Yes, drinks.
Ooh.